Listen, here I go on Fishing Game, and I want to get this absolutely spot on for you. I regard them as a pathologically schizophrenic organisation. For the reasons that I explained before, they want to create an environment in which to kill things. All right? So that's their aegis for being. It's all about us enjoying ourselves recreationally in our chosen sport, essentially of fishing and shooting ducks. Oh, and the occasional swan, I guess, or anything else that flies across the sights at duck shooting season. That's what they do. All right. Now, they are. You have to be compulsorily licensed in this country before you're allowed to fish, which is absurd, or shoot anything, which is equally absurd, it seems to me. And then the New Zealand Fish and Game Council take your compulsory money. You can be fined quite extensively for not having a license, and then they utilise it to employ staff. Now, in my experience of those staff, they are extremist, greeny loonies. I've even had conversations with multiple Fish and Game staff who tell me that they're not going to have children because they don't want to bring those children into a dangerous and polluted world, quote unquote. All right? So when I'm dealing with those sort of people and you're front and up, you are front standard for Fish and Game, I know I'm not dealing with normal people. I'm dealing with people who are to the left of the Green Party. That's the first thing. The second is the schizophrenic nature of their organisation. I want to have clean, so-called clean lakes and waterways. Why? So that I can put an exotic fish species that chomps through the indigenous fish species of this country and kills and eats them for my personal recreation. So I can enjoy myself. So it's not about, my motive is so I can fish something even though it's chomping through New Zealand's indigenous biodiversity. Okay, all right. And I want everybody else to change their behaviour for me. All right, that's Fish and Game. Then I want to be able to breed ducks and make sure there are lots of ducks and geese and a whole series of other introduced species into this country who befoul these same waterways, okay, and create E. coli infestations. I want to make sure that I can bring them in as well. Okay, so that's the third thing. Why? So that I can have ducks to shoot. Oh, and by the way, you've got to have a compulsory license to do that, and they send out compliance officers at duck shooting season to make sure that you're actually behaving in an appropriate way. Oh, you've got family groups and this my. Well, you're not observing, wankers like that. Okay, so it's sort of like the traffic cops as well. All right, except they're not saving anybody. They're just revenue collecting. And then the third aspect of Fish and Game, and this is that they then utilise and scoop up all that money, and then they fight in the environment courts, and they fight in the high courts and in the courts of appeal against productive people in this economy, the people who actually create wealth, grow food, that sort of stuff, so that they can get these selfish ends achieved. I personally like the ones that I've had personal experience with who actually support exotic weeds being put into our lakes in this country because it provides a habitat for their exotic fish. And lagrosiphon, I had this conversation. It's extraordinary. I was saying, where's Fish and Game on lagrosiphon, for example? They go, well, a lot of our people think that lagrosiphon's good because in actual fact it provides habitat and a good breeding environment for our fish. Oh, piss off. That is the nature of the people that Fish and Game employ. Now, I don't know if that represents necessarily their governance team. I've seen that their governance team is dysfunctional over the last couple of years. They've had insurrections. They've chucked people out of elected organisations. They elect them on a regional basis, and then there's some sort of national body that's been through a series of political crises. Happens to everybody, but particularly happens to them. And Bernadette suggested that they might be pulling that back now to get a bit more realistic. their staff are a different matter. They're still there, they're still employed, they're still fighting the greenie fight, and they still have, I believe, the schizophrenic attitude towards trying to protect exotic species for their own personal and selfish recreational behaviours, and employing as much of this compulsory revenue as they can to stop people farming, or being involved in horticulture or viticulture or anything else that creates real jobs, jobs, creates export incomes, and presents and essentially underpins the New Zealand economy. Now, it's one thing to have a view. The way in which Fish and Game prosecute that view at a regional level is a scandal. And it is the reason why Southland farmers, and I would anticipate the entire rural community of New Zealand, have had enough with these guys. They used to be sensible, they used to be understandable, they used to be people that you could talk to, that you could come to some sort of, I know it was quite fashionable, compromise with, or at least understanding with. Now, they're in the same bag as Greenpeace, Fish and Game, and all the rest, the Environment Defence Society as well. They hunt as a pack, they've got tons of money, the money that they compulsorily acquire, and they seek on a relatively daily basis to sabotage good sense and good farming practice across this country. That's my view on Fish and Game. What's yours?